Hi all, welcome to week 2 of our Comic Spirit course. Today I'd like to introduce Henri Bergson, spelled Henry Bergson, a late 19th century philosopher who explored the question of the comic and tried to understand why it is that we laugh. Bergson explains laughter as a social gesture. Living we should add, should be flexible. Humans should adapt their thoughts, actions, and behavior to the process of living. Those who do not adapt, for example, Don Quixote, who sees the windmills as giants through his particular lens, becomes an object of comedy. So for Bergson, laughter serves as a corrective, as a social corrective to how people should behave. His basic theory is captured in one sentence: laughter is caused by something mechanical encrusted on the living. By mechanical, he was going to mean behavior, language, situations, any form of rigid or inflexible behavior would be funny. So there are 3 or 4 other things that he added to that. He believed that comic only existed within the human, i.e., when we see a hat fly or a cat play with a ball, and we laugh because it reminds us of something human. 2, Henri Bergson felt that comedy involved absence of feeling, which is comedy is essentially intellectual, and empathy or sympathy or feeling would result in non-laughter, essentially. The third thing, comedy, according to Bergson, is always a laughter of the group. It's a social gesture, and it has something to do with the social and the lack of elasticity or flexibility or adaptability of the individual. So his basic phrase, which is his major contribution, that laughter is, the laughable element is something mechanical or inelastic in the human, leads us to this idea of the person that is comic is something of a puppet, somebody who is unconscious, somebody who is absent-minded, or even like a machine. And he extended this idea to society so that social actions, for example, can be stereotyped or rigid. For example, Marx Brothers, those of you who have watched their films, they take on universities, operas, governments, making fun of the stiff formality of several professions, for example, doctors, lawyers, etc. Bergson gave several examples of the comic or devices that that have become very valuable to us. One device is that of repetition. When a situation recurs over and over again, we find it funny, because it essentially interrupts the changing stream of life. For example, if I was to see a student once on campus, I would say hello. Second, third time, I would smile. And the third time, it would provoke laughter. Yet another device that he mentioned was one of inversion. So any situation where roles are reversed is funny. For example, a child teaching his parents, or the cheater who is cheated, or the prisoner who is, for example, lecturing the judge. All of these result in comedy. He also borrowed a few devices from children's toys and games, and I will just advice, two of them, which is one is the Jack in the Box. So when a character behaves with a stubbornness of vision, for example, expresses an idea over and over again, whether it's lust or stinginess or miserliness, that becomes a source of comedy too, because he's acting like a spring, just as a child's toy Jack in the Box does so. And finally, we have the snowball device. This idea involves uh, something that is small but which increases in size as it moves along. For example, if somebody was to enter a room, was to upset a teacup, and in the process throw a human out of the window, which in addition kills a dog, etc. So this idea of gathering momentum as the item rushes headlong to a final collapse is funny, because we laugh at the connection or the disconnect between the insignificant cause and the disproportionate effect. And finally, one more thing, which is language. If it is repeated or full of ready-made phrases which have lost meaning, is also can be seen as a source of comedy.